Welcome to the Walden Podcast. This is season 1, episode 1, where we talk about entrepreneurship, the great outdoors, and living a life with intent. I've got Colt Prince, the one and only Colt Prince of Three Tree Kennels, on today. Let's freaking go. Excited to have you, man.
Excited to be here. How's Montana? I hear the weather's great this time of year.
It's in the 90s right now, so it's warmer.
Still 90 here at 610. So,
but freaking gorgeous though. One thing that I haven't gotten used to yet, it doesn't get dark till like 9:30.
Yeah, Nashville's the opposite, man. In the wintertime, it's dark at 4:15. So we're lucky to get 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock summertime. So it's nice to get a little later.
Yeah, half of Tennessee is Eastern time and half of it's Central time, right? And are you right there on the cusp or what?
Yeah, so it's about 45 minutes east of me is the cutoff. So I'm kind of on the worst side of it. So we catch the earliest sunrise and the earliest sunset. So you got to get up to be at the duck blind. Sometimes I got to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to be at a fairly local duck blind just to get the boat on the water and try to get there, you know?
I'm out on it. This is a very long summer. Like the days are very long here, which I love it. Because you always have time to go do something. You know, you're like, well, it's only 8 o'clock. I still could go catch an hour worth of fly fishing. Might as well go get it, you know? But also I need to get some work done. It's hard to have that much time on your hands. It's easy to go, it's okay, it'll be daylight for another 6 hours. I'll get to that later, you know?
Oh, man.
So I'm so glad to have you on, man. I've known you for a while. Some people may know me as Totally Upland on Instagram. They know you're Three Tree Kennels, right? The number 3.
3 Tree Kennels. I've got a sycamore tree by the creek up there, and it's got 3 of them growing out of the same base, and it's right by the house, and we wanted to call it something local, and it just kind of worked, and I love Dale Earnhardt, so 3 just kind of ended up being close to the heart.
Let's go. So you said local. I mean, local business, that's really what it's all about. 72% of the nation's economy are business with 5 employees or less. It's mom and pops, it's entrepreneurs. And you're a serial entrepreneur, if I recall correctly. At one time, were you a rock star? You were a rock star for a little while, and now what? Tell me that.
So I grew up in Western North Carolina, in kind of the heart of the mountains, little beautiful town in the foothills. We had a lot of great bluegrass, a lot of phenomenal musicians, and was lucky enough to grow up in that culture. But like a lot of small towns, especially in the mountains, it was like the edge of my town had big walls and nobody could leave it. So when I was a kid, my dad was always he was always going into either the military or working out west, doing a lot of stuff. So luckily my grandparents would always take me traveling. And I guess I never really was scared to leave the town. And boy, I rode a Telecaster pretty much all across the world, as G.E. Smith would say. I've been in Nashville for going on 15 years, and I played music professionally the last 15 of it. I've stepped away since COVID. I do a lot more outdoors dog training stuff, but I still write, I still record, I still have a lot of contacts in the business. I'm involved in it, but not nearly as much as I was.
So you'll still grip the axe every now and then. Is that what you?
Absolutely. I still love playing. I just don't do it 12 hours a day on Broadway anymore, which is nice.
Sure. It's no longer the business. I think that's the real conversation here, though. It's how do you take your passions, or how do you take the things that you love doing and make it your job?
That's definitely a big one. I mean, my whole life has kind of been that way, because I guess I've never technically held a job where I've had like a particular boss man where I was under paying taxes and into Social Securities. Since I've been a kid, I've literally worked for contractors, mason work. My dad's a carpenter. My stepdad owned a mechanic shop my whole life. I worked for him for a little while. I build stuff with my hands. I just make money when I need it. And there's never really been a plan B. So I guess when plan A is all you got, you just dig into it. And I think that's really what it takes is you have to know that failure is the only option, because there's no other options. There's do it or don't.
Sure. And it sounds like you worked under a lot of entrepreneurs. You worked with a lot of other people that were entrepreneurial. You never know how much you're really absorbing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that plays a significant role. Have you had some role models on the entrepreneurship side in the past, or?
Absolutely. My stepdad owned an automotive business in a small town for, going on 20 years probably. pretty successful, and he's been a musician my whole life, and that's a fairly successful band, and they play a lot of gigs, and they're well known in Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, upstate South Carolina, and into Virginia. And they've been a steady band for 15, 20, 25 years now. So my stepdad definitely has taught me a lot in the business world, and I guess just how to speak to people, because he's a great talker. So I learned a lot from him.
There you go. I believe with the gift of gab, you can get a whole lot done.
Yeah, and if you can understand some common ground with some people and not immediately go to what you disagree on, and you go to what you do agree on, you can really get some stuff accomplished. And that in my opinion is kind of the only way you can approach something and get a good result quickly.
I agree. Connect with people and meet them where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or find some kind of common ground. Agreed. Yeah. Most definitely. And I think that requires having an open mind and an open heart when you do meet with people.
Yeah, which involves, that whole thing just opens up a better aspect of everything in life in general. That's a good way to look at it.
Facts. I wholeheartedly agree. So here's my theory, okay? And maybe you can add to this, but you might go to the National Geographic website and say, let me apply to be one of these photographers that goes to Russia to film the Siberian tiger. My guess here is that Nat Geo doesn't hire anyone for that role. It's only the person who's willing to take a camera and get their ass out in the woods to film it.
Yeah.
And Nat Geo's going to buy that film. So let's talk a little bit about advertising. Let's talk a little bit about self-promotion. And more importantly, kind of pinpointing where do you want to be as far as your end game is concerned? Like, what is the job you really want to self-promote yourself to? Walk me through kind of the mentality. Tell me a little bit about your business, how that's working, the inner workings of the business, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I guess that's a little bit to unpack. So pretty much the way that I think of it, it kind of goes back to music. I've had to network myself as a guitar player for a work for hire base for the whole time I've been in Nashville. So one, you're hiring me because I'm based on what I can do playing, and a lot of times that's a 2 hour or less gig. And if there's travel involved, you're hiring me for the 22 hours you have to be around me. And that's really how it goes. And anything I ever think in the world, you have to be able to hang out with that person, be comfortable around them, and enjoy the company of somebody. And if you can check those boxes, that's kind of been the networking thing for me. So if you can be a cool hang, you can do the part, you can show up on time, you can be courteous and aware of other people's needs and not just completely run over people's needs and be a train wreck the whole time you're there. That's kind of something that I feel like I've had to kind of run as a guideline in the music industry, where you would think it's a little bit more risque and you can just do anything, but boy, it's not in the professional side of things anyway. So when I come into the trying to do the dog training, bird dog side of the world, and moving into the outdoor industry has a lot of overlaps with the music industry, and a lot of my contacts are from both. I've got a lot of friends in the broadhead production industry and the bow world. I love to shoot a bow. I've always shot a bow my whole life. I'm a big game hunter, but a lot of times I've just shot a bow and shot a rifle for the fun of it, and watch a lot of animals more than I actually harvest them. And I'm big into game management. I've got a small farm here, but back in North Carolina, I had a 100+ acre family farm that's been in the family for 100+ years. And so my whole kind of thing was wanting to market myself in a way that allows you to know all of the things that I did when I was in the music industry, but also be in the professional side of the hunting world to do the same thing, and kind of show you that I've got the background in maintenance and farms. I understand quail in the mountains of North Carolina. Everybody I know had a bird dog. I grew up around coonhounds and rabbit dogs and bear dogs. And my main thing was being around a lot of the old Appalachian dog men, like the guys that I respected, that like they don't make them anymore. They ain't many of them around. And I could ever be thought of in the same conversation as those guys, I would be happy about it. And so I always kind of wanted to come and approach the whole aspect with, I wanted to be able to give the whole package of, this is who I am, this is why I can do what I can do, and here are the dogs. At the end of the day, the main thing is a good quality dog.
Right.
And I've got the two really good labs. I've got two really good pointers, a English pointer and a Brittany, that are both phenomenal dogs. Both of them are under 2 years. My lab's 5 and 7, and I've got some of the best dogs I've ever had in my life right now, and I'm very
Let's
thankful for
go.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a time to be alive. When they're firing on all cylinders. Good
Man,
time.
it's
Good time.
I can pull any one of them out of the lot and be happy with them. If I do my part, they do theirs. Let's say that a
There we
dog will
go.
make a liar out of any man, but if I do my part, they do theirs.
Let's go. So let's back up a little bit. The dogs, they speak for themselves. The dogs, I'm wholeheartedly believe in the upland world, the dog training world. If I go hunt with a big group of people chasing pheasant or whatever, and somebody's got a phenomenal dog, I'm probably going to go, hey, what's going on here? Where did you get
Yeah,
this, or who did the training here? Like, they can sell for you. But let's back up and revisit maybe the time you were a professional guitarist, and the skills that you've taken from that here on self promotion. Self promotion is such an interesting concept. It's like, you got
yeah,
to market, you got to advertise, but you're also walking a fine line. Really, you have to bring the market value.
yeah.
How can you do both, and how do you pitch both? Really, it's such a difficult task. I'm curious to know kind of what your approach is there.
Yeah, I guess the first thing, and it took a little while, especially in the music industry, is you have to build a self-worth to know that you have a certain amount of competition that you can compete with. So there are guys in this town that can absolutely eat my lunch, and I can't really compete with their gigs or their studio work or whatever. But within my wheelhouse and my range, I know what I'm hireable for. I know what I can provide and what my rate should be. And I guess having a self-worth then builds the confidence to be able to market yourself, which is the second thing. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people, and I mean me, everybody, it feels weird to market yourself. It's If I
Truly.
paid someone else to market for me, they would do it in a very different way than I do it, because I'm going around my own personalities.
Sure.
Uh, so like it's something that I feel like you have to get comfortable being able to market yourself and tell some form of narrative, a story about yourself. You have to be a little bit open. You have to be just kind of willing to put yourself out there a little bit. And to be honest, from the time I was a kid, I was a reasonably good guitar player, but I wasn't just super talented. I had to work extremely hard at it, like every musician does. And everybody told me, you'll never be able to be a musician in Nashville. You'll never be a studio player. You'll never do this. And I think if people hadn't have told me that, I probably wouldn't have. So I think when people do reject you inevitably, and when people tell you that you're going to fail, like they will, it's
Yes.
the people that aren't willing to get up out of the bed and get up out of the mud and do the work. And
Yes.
it may take 10 years, it may take 20, but getting good at whatever you want to get good at, if that was the goal, do whatever the time is, put the work in, and be happy with the end result.
Wholeheartedly agreed. Self promotion and expertise, I think, is the number one barrier to entry for people becoming entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
And I think it's the voice in the back of your head that says, well, are you really an expert in this? Do
yeah,
you really have enough value to offer the market? But the stat is something unbelievable. Like, of all the sales professionals in America, 86% of them have never read a book about sales.
really.
And so one book would make you a 14 percenter. If you read two, you're in the top 10% in the country as a salesperson.
Yeah,
And you can't feel comfortable going around and selling your own service or your own product. Like,
yeah,
you technically are an expert. It doesn't take that much. And these days, we're in a crazy future
yeah,
where the separation between doing whatever you want to do for a living is literally you and a camera.
yeah. If you can market it the right way, if you can get the amount of traffic you need, if you can sell a product or a service, there's a lot of ways to figure it out. And that's kind of something, as a like talking about an entrepreneur in a business. I would love to get into selling more dog equipment and stuff like that. And it's gotten into kind of such a monopoly of a game where you have to be a big company for Garmin or Dogtra or any of those guys to look at you. It makes it a struggle for guys like me to do it. And one of the things I would love to do that would help my side of the business would be to sell the gear that I train the dogs with to the people that I'm training the dogs for.
Sure.
And eventually I'll get there. I've got a few friends, like Relentless Bird Dogs is a guy that I've been buying some stuff from, and he was kind of talking about the path he had to take to get all of his sales lined up, and I know it takes a little bit of work, and just like anything, it takes some work to get there. But I think you have to look at a lot of different avenues. Like, I've been around dog equipment my whole life. I like it. It's something that I would like to get into selling, and that little bit of income that I might make would be worth it in the end if it's, every couple of months you start making a little more, and then you have to have multiple avenues to make any kind of income strain as a business owner, because you can't put all your eggs in a basket, for sure.
Right. Multiple streams, really. You need to have many different outlets.
Yeah,
And
as many as possible
what
that you can
people
manage.
probably what people don't realize is it's so uncommon and so infrequent that you come with the $10 million banger stream on the first one. It's like, no, you get 17 streams that make you $1,000 a month, and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. That's what you really need.
Yeah, think about it like a tributary in a river or feeding the lake. If
Right.
you have a bunch of really small streams coming out of the headwaters, they're going to dump into a pretty big creek, and that's going to turn into a fairly fast flowing creek into a river, and that's going to get dammed up into a lake. And
Right.
all of that started with a drop of rain. So
Right.
you got to start small.
Brick by brick.
Yeah, the thing that I've figured out is if you can finish the small ideas that you have through to fruition, and if they don't work, put them in a pile and bypass them for a little bit. Maybe come back later. But the ones that do work, focus your effort on only those for a little while, and keep that pile in the background. But don't focus a lot of effort on the places that aren't making you any kind of streams of money, or even, like, not necessarily financially, but is it doing something beneficial for you, for the company, for anything? And if it's not, don't waste the effort and put it into something that is.
Right. And I'll add to that, redefine what rich is. Redefine wealth.
Yeah.
This has been a challenge for me forever. It's always been like, it's a million. You got to be a millionaire, right? That's the only way. My priorities are changing.
Yeah.
Now that I'm living in Montana, I'm surrounded by gorgeous streams that I can go fly fishing at any time. I can take my dogs and go kick up birds in 5 minutes. It's like, I'm just trying to buy my time back now,
Yeah, that sounds
I'm
like
technically retired. I just had to get the rent paid, really.
Yeah.
My priorities are changing,
And honestly, I think, if, like you said, if you look at what is wealth, what is riches, it's like you said, if you have enough money to pay for the time that you need to go do the things you want. I've never really had much of a surplus past that. If I've got that, I'm pretty happy. So if I've got enough to pay for my things that I need, get the rent paid, I'm probably going catfishing or bird dogging somewhere.
Right. What would you do after you bought your time back? How feasible is it to do those things right now? What is it really going to cost to buy all your time back?
Yeah.
That's the real way to be thinking about it, I think.
Well, and another thing for me, I say this, it was the same way with prioritizing myself for guitar. Kind of taught me a few lessons, and I think the same thing applies in this world. My body's going to eventually go to a point to where I can't follow the dogs, I can't do the work, I can't climb the mountains, I can't physically do it. So you might as well do it while you're young, and then I can hopefully have built something that I can work from at that point. And if I can change gears as an older man. And I know that because playing guitar for a living for 12 plus hours a day on Broadway for 8 years in a row for a long time, gave myself bilateral carpal tunnel. And now these two have trigger finger and they stick. So everything has a shelf life. And that's even just your hands. For my hands went at a pretty early age because I worked too much and didn't rest them enough. So you have to prioritize what's going to actually be usable later.
Yeah. Get it while it's hot, really.
Yeah. Get it while it's hot.
When you have the time, or when you're in your prime and you've got this dream or this goal or this aspiration, it's like,
yeah,
it's the corporate lie. The corporate lie is come to work, we'll pay you X amount, put you on quote unquote a meal plan. It'll always be just enough to get the bills paid, but you're still going to accumulate debt. And the more debt you accumulate, the more likely you're going to stay in this job, and you're never going to free yourself, is the reality.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say that trying to be a business owner, you're definitely not going to have much financial freedom, and by much I mean zero. But at the end of the day, if it's worth it for you to be able to be your own boss man, set your own hours, set your own goals, be able to work into the night if you want to, sleep a little late in the morning because it's hot. There's a lot of great things that you get from it with all the stress that inevitably comes, because there's a lot of sleepless nights and there's a lot of how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to get this? But that's also with everything, like you could go into your job and lose it tomorrow. If you have a nice secure job, you don't know. We've seen that happen. And the thing that I would like to say is if you build your own thing, it's going to be a lot harder for anybody to take it away. It's built, but it's harder to take away.
And if you have multiple streams, you're
it's a lot less. It's a lot less felt whenever somebody hits one of those streams and you've got 3 to 5 or 4, 7, whatever,
Yeah, be my guest.
And that's with me. So when you was asking about kind of the business, I didn't give kind of a rundown about that. Quickly, the way that I like to run things is I do a lot of retriever training and bird dog training. I overlap the two a lot in a way that not a lot of people do. I've got an English pointer that runs watermarks and can run 100+ yard landmark with the labs.
That's good.
Brittany's running and doing the same thing. My lab's upland hunt. I frequently shoot bob whites over my lab. He's loves rabbits and squirrels. And I mean, he's literally with me at all times. And Gus does everything I do. So I focus on just getting somebody a dog that does whatever they do, whether that's be, hunting, fishing, hiking, whatever they want, a companion to do that. And if they want a bird dog, train them to the standards of the hunt test world. I do a little bit of the hunt test thing, but as a kid, I done a lot of the competition hunting with a coon dog, and I won a lot of stuff. I had a good time doing it, but it's just doesn't tickle my fancy as much as just really getting out there and hunting.
I know, and I'll be careful about this topic, but myself, I took Jaxie and I ran her in the NABDA, or one of them, and it was my fault. Like, I didn't really know. I knew what test they were going to do. She had just gone into heat, so we had to go last. She was the only female, and she ended up taking a second, and I screwed her. Had I had somebody that runs field tests handle her, she'd have been much better off.
Well, a handler can make a dog have a good or a bad day, that's for sure. And I think a lot of times people put too much value on the hunt test specifically, because a dog could have a bad day just as me or you could,
Right.
And that good day may not coincide with the day the hunt test that you were able to make it to happen to be, because there's a lot of variables there.
Right.
And I do agree. I look at it like this. I have a high school diploma. I have a little bit of college education. I didn't want to go through with the core classes. I did all the music I needed, and I got out of there. You could go get your master's or PhD, whatever you want. And it's the same thing in any of the bird dog and retriever worlds. You've got your started titles up through your grand pass level stuff. And you can really pick and choose what level of certification that you can prove this dog is running at. That doesn't mean that your dog that's been hunting for 10 years, that's trained to the same standard, is a lesser of a dog. It means that he's not competed and just got those things.
Right. And the reality is the competition setting is never the real world. And when you get out in the real world, you see what's what. That's the reality.
And I'll say this from a trainer's perspective. I've trained my dogs to the best standards I can get, and they're always looser at the end of the season. There's always things to touch up. I don't have time to stay on top of them. If I'm going to hunt and enjoy myself, I'm going to let them be dogs. Training is training, and you don't teach when you're hunting, because it doesn't come across very good most of the time. So I think people should definitely realize you keep training, and you teach all of the concepts then. And then when you go into the hunting world, let them make mistakes. Have some fun. If they make a mistake, miss the bird. Don't do it. Whatever. If you have to get out of the duck blind and go get your own bird, that's fine. You probably didn't have to get the 10 before that. So my thing is you have to leave something in it for the dog. You have to give them something to love it for. And if you do that, that dog will always work for you in pretty much any capacity.
Wholeheartedly agreed. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. You did some time. You took your core classes that you needed in school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a YouTube University guy.
Yeah,
I have learned everything from YouTube. And I have my heroes there. Like, I know who I'm looking at going, I want to be you. This is the guy I want to be when I grow up. What bird doggers are you looking to? What trainers are you looking to? Who are your people, really? Who's your inspiration?
So, locally, one of the best guys I've ever trained with, his name's Tim Boyce. He owns Buffalo Valley Kennels. Buffalo Valley, Tennessee. It's between Crossville and Lebanon. It's right in the middle of where there's a lake there. I can't remember. Center Hill Lake. He breeds Boykins, some of the best Boykins in the game right now. He's won quite a bit with them. Sailor, his dog, is the 7th Boykin ever to pass the Grand. So big dog for a little brown dog. There's a train coming by, so you may lose me. Tim Boyce locally is one of my
I
favorite.
know you're in the South, buddy. When you hear these trains, got to be in the South. I'm just saying.
Eric Forrester for the Upland World is one of the best.
That's my guy. That's my guy,
guy
for sure. I love that guy.
Great system, great dogs, good trainer. Everything about him, he's got the whole package for people that want to learn the game and people that really don't have the time to spend out there that want to gain some knowledge. Just watch that guy walk around in the world, man.
I see. I've never met him, but he's my YouTube hero, though.
Yeah, same. I've never met the guy, and everybody that I point to, anybody when they want to learn the upland world, I say just go watch that guy's videos, and you'll see why anybody does it. The views.
I can watch him all day. I can watch him all day. I mean, he is my YouTube hero, undoubtedly. I'd love to get him on this podcast. Like, I don't know what it's going to take, but
hey, man, maybe one day. I think you can probably do it.
I believe all the plasma in my body to your clinic of choice, Eric. If you come on the freaking podcast, guy.
But yeah, man, there's so many things that, like you said, with the tech side of the world, if you have a camera and a little bit of ability to run it and a friend that can edit and you don't even have to, you can put together some reasonably good stuff and just let people see stuff they can't see on their own, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of guys can't leave the East Coast, and so they can't see the stuff that those views offer and the land and the terrain and the territory offer. So just the place that you're putting your foot is worth showing to other people sometimes.
Yeah. You are a Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace GoPro away from hiring yourself for whatever job you want to do.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody now needs media help. You know, with the kennel, I do most of my own media stuff, and it's tough to film, train, edit, deal with the day-to-day of the kennel, try to go get dog food, run errands. So realistically, if I'm kind of looking for a little help right now. We're getting ready to move some things into a little bit bigger, which is great. You know, the growth has happened this year. From May of this year to now, we've gained, I couldn't even tell you, I think we've got 4 clients that I didn't expect. Let's go. I had a litter of puppies that wasn't really expected, but we've been trying for a while and kind of came to happen. Finally got the puppies, delivering them. We've got more clients coming in, with some going out next month and more clients coming in this month. So I'm kind of growing and needing an employee. And I think the part of looking for an employee is going to be, if you've got some social media experience, that's going to play in a role in the hiring factor. Yeah.
So let's talk about the media, because for the outdoor industry, it's juxtaposed is the reality.
Yeah.
You want to be outside, following your dream, doing outdoors things. You don't necessarily want to be being Survivor Man, walking 150 yards out there so you can set the camera up and then walk 150 yards back so you can get the walk away shot, only to walk back 150 yards.
It makes it insurmountable to try to actually put together a film that's edited in that way.
And it kills the enjoyment of the outdoors is the problem. And so here you have this billion-dollar industry that is massively content deficient.
Yeah.
Which brings me to a second thought here. I mean, if you move out into the woods, let's say you move out to Wyoming, or you move out to Montana. Montana's got 1 million people in it. Austin, Texas has got 1.3 million people last I checked. And I think those numbers are wrong. It's got to be higher.
It's got to be. I've been there.
But 1 million human beings here in Montana. There are so many places that still haven't been walked into and filmed yet.
Yeah.
And so if you're an outdoorsman that is or likes the camera, willing to run the camera, there's so much content. There's so much good content that could be done here, you know? Yeah.
Well, it goes back to what you said with, like, you're not going to get someone to hire you to go take a video of a tiger in a remote location. But if you get the footage, it's worth whatever someone will pay for it. And if multiple people want it, then you have something that is of value to multiple people, and they can fight over it and drive the price up.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like I don't want to film the entirety of all the places that man can see, because I think that you need to leave something for just the eye. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I do agree that there's a lot of places, there's a lot of things that you could definitely go film, that you could market in a way. Like you said, if you have the gumption to go out there and do it, and you collect it and you put it on a computer and you get it back to your hard drive, and then you can send that to someone, it's a value at that point, but it's not a value when you're thinking about it. And that's
so let's talk about that tiny little piece of it, though. Like the initiative.
Yeah.
You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go out in the freezing winter in Russia to try to get a picture of a Siberian tiger. Like first of all, it takes a little crazy, I think. It takes a little initiative, and I think there's a bigger sliver of that where, and Americans, we should know it the best, is capitalism. It's like that. Why not me?
Yeah.
Why not me? You know, anyone could do it. It's anybody's game. You just need a camera, really, and potentially you get eaten by a tiger. But how has that been for you, though? Like, how do you make the move into it? You just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've kind of always been that kind of person. I know what I want to do to a fault most of the time. I do things my way, pretty particular, and I don't really care what other people are doing. I've dealt with enough people telling me that I'm doing something wrong when they're doing less than me. I'll be honest, I do wrong stuff all the time. We all do. I don't know half of what I'm doing sometimes, and if I make this mistake today, the best I can do is learn to not make it tomorrow. And I guess once I finally figured out that I could trust myself to follow through on a plan, and trust myself to learn well enough to be good at it, then learning guitar really taught me how to teach myself things. So I can teach myself very quickly because I learned how to play guitar at a very high level.
And you taught yourself guitar?
Most of the time, yeah. Like I had a lot of friends and people I was around, and I was involved in it, but I had a few lessons that were kind of random, but nothing by any means that was like I had 20 years of lessons from a guy. Like I taught myself records and YouTube and just the old school way of listening to it.
And you had people around you that made you competitive with them.
Absolutely. I wanted to be as good as somebody else or better. And when you gain that I think the small successes to me are what gets you over the hump. I think people take on an insurmountable task of the whole thing. You know, let's make a huge picture. We got to do this. Well, first you need to do that. And if you can do that, then you can do the next that. And after 20 that's, then you've got this. And I think a lot of people look at the task as if it were this huge, tall thing. And if they just started walking, it's not really that steep, you know?
Right. Because you don't wake up with 100,000 followers. Like the media would have you believe you go viral, and then it's just that. It's like,
and then you're just rolling in money.
Most of the time, it's just eating the shit sandwich for long enough until something finally hits for you. You know? Well, let me ask you this one too.
Yeah.
Just kind of a third piece up to it. How do you take rejection when it's your baby?
Yeah.
When it's your idea, when it's something that you created and somebody says no to you, how do you handle that?
So I'll handle that one first. Like I said, playing guitar, playing music, my whole life, everybody pretty much told me like the chances of me being able to make it in Nashville and make a living, even go there, you'll never even go there. Like from the get-go, it was always rejection from the time I was a kid, from the time I picked up a guitar. Not that like you're not good enough, it's just that the chances of you being able to go to a professional city called Guitar Town with a guitar and make any kind of living, you're just never going to do it. And so I think as a kid, I kind of learned how to just shuck that off a little bit. Like it never really bothered me very much because they also weren't doing the thing I wanted to do. So how are they going to tell me I can't? Who does that come from is something that really matters to me. If it were an idol of mine that told me I was just hot garbage at something I'd done, I'd probably go home and cry for a few days. If it's somebody on the street I've never met and don't think they're doing anything that I'm real concerned with, I would take that a little less to heart, I guess. But rejection is definitely something you got to deal with. It hurts, and with a business, you know, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I'm not going to be everybody's favorite business person, trainer, whatever. I may not handle the dog the way you like. I may not train to a standard you like. And you kind of have to know that you find like-minded individuals and people. You build a little bit of a community around yourself, and you hope that that will suffice, because you can't do anything without some help, and if you can get a little bit of help, it goes a long way.
Yes, and there's a deal out there for everyone.
Yes, and no matter, don't be afraid to take a deal that doesn't seem like, don't be afraid to do something that doesn't seem like it's going to be the greatest thing up front, because man, I say yes, and that's the thing. As a guitar player, I said yes to everything the first 5 years I moved to this town, because I had no name, nobody knew me, I had no credentials, I had nothing. So I had to go make something, and the only way I made something was to work every opportunity that I had.
Yeah.
And if it was bad, it was bad. I was a part of it, and I learned as much from the bad stuff as I learned from the good. So you just kind of have to hope that you get more good with the bad, and eventually you make better decisions on which ones are going to be good and bad.
Yeah, I'm very lucky and blessed, I should say. Like, I had a good mentor, I had a good coach. I went and sought him out. But he told me, he said, your first few clients, you need to say, hey, I know not everyone's financial situation is the same. This is the kind of work that I do, and people do pay me for it. However, I don't pretend to know where you're at. You can set the price. Like, whatever you think is worth to you, that's what I'll do it for. And I did that with my first 5 clients here in Montana, but what that did was, 1, it ensured their comfort, and 2, I got a referral for sure.
Well, word of mouth, in my experience, is by far the best still today for any type of business. And that word of mouth can come from social media. It can come from anything.
Right.
But getting that first client is the uphill battle. The second, third, fourth client is always easier, because that first client is also going to be that part of your community there at bat for you, because they'll say, hey, this guy did a solid. I really liked what he did. I like, my dog looks great. I love the way he handled this situation. And that goes farther than anything I can tell you about myself. A good example of that is a dog named Deacon. He's in with me this summer. He was in last summer. He wouldn't hold a bumper hardly at all. Another train coming. And now he's through force fetch into force to pile. He's picking up blind retrieves at 25 yards or so. And I've only had him for 2 3-month sessions. And 1 3-month session, and now we're a month and a half in. And, the first time I told his owner, I was like, man, it's going to take a while. And we had to work through a lot of stuff, but I did the extra work. And he's back, and he's referred multiple people to me, and he's very happy.
Yeah.
And you be honest with somebody up front and let them know that you can't just gaslight somebody and let them know that, hey, everything's perfect. Let them know you're having an issue. When you're having an issue, be upfront about that issue, but fix it efficiently and properly, and that's what comes across as trustworthy.
Yeah. Tell the truth.
Yeah. Just be honest about the situation.
Yeah. And with bird dogs, it's like, yeah, hey, I accidentally played tug of war with him on a retrieve, and now he's hard mouthing a little bit, or whatever it is. It's just like, tell the truth. And dog owners will respect that, I believe. Yeah. That's what they're really looking for. I think the biggest concern from a person who hires a dog trainer in the first place is, I hope they're actually getting worked.
Yes.
The dog trainer a lot of times is also a breeder, and they have 17 dogs or whatever, and you're like, is my dog actually getting any reps? I don't know. So honesty is the best policy, I'd say. How would you say that you kind of bridge that gap? It's like, is it through the camera, really? Like, is it?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you nailed it with that. Like, I've saw the value in social media by being in the music industry. I don't inherently love social media. I don't do anything on my personal accounts. I could care less about them. The only reason that I even do anything social media is mainly for the clients to be able to see the progress, see their dogs on a daily basis. I keep the stories updated with your daily progress stuff, and then all my posts are just kind of business, like pertaining to the business, big events, milestones of dogs, stuff like that.
You have an event coming, right?
Do what?
Time for that shameless plug, I think. You do have an event coming, right?
I do. So there's an event that we're going to call the Bird Dog Bonanza. It's July 26th, 7th, and 8th. The main event's the 7th, 27th. But there's still a few lodging spots available. We're hosting it at Tuckaway Preserve in Centerville, Tennessee. And it's basically just a 500-acre beautiful property, lots of mountains. It's right on the outside of the Duck River. There's a creek running right between, like right through the property. There's a lodge. We have a couple hundred quail, like ready to go, secured. We're going to train dogs on live quail. I can introduce, if you have, dogs are free to come. Dogs can come with their owners, even if they're not trained clients or looking for that. Just bring your dog out to the event. And if you have a dog you would like to see how they handle birds, we'll have birds for that. We can put people on some stuff. We can do some training stuff and help out. We're going to host a little training session in the morning, daybreak to 10 o'clock when it gets too hot. After that, we'll have lunch catered, an event with entertainment, dinner catered, and a couple of lodging spots still available. Hit me up at Three Tree Kennels on Instagram for any information that you might need. Hit up Marcus. He can point you to the right direction. He's going to make the trip from Montana.
I'm coming. I'll be
You're
there.
coming from the farthest away right now.
I'm stoked. It's going to be good. It might be a little baby drive, but it'll be worth it though.
It's fine, man. I know my buddy, the guy I guided with in Kansas this year, he left. He'd been guiding in Kansas for 4 months on whitetail and waterfowl. He left, went back to Montana, I believe, and had some cow elk tags. Shot those cow elk for 3 or 4 days, turned around, came back to Nashville all in a 6-day window. And I told him, I was like, if anybody else has done that turnaround, I don't know how they'd handle it, but he handled it like a champ. So
let's go.
Good luck to you on the drive. It'll be a little less.
I've gotten used to it at this point, though. You know, I've gone here to Texas a handful of times. It's about the same kind of drive, really.
Yeah, and you're South Texas, right?
Central. Yeah,
Central. That's a long drive from where you're at. It's that's a lot of states to cover.
Drive. It takes a couple days, you know. But I figured out how to break it up, though.
Yeah,
it'll be fun. It's going to be a new kind of drive for me to head to Tennessee. I do have some kind of check marks I want to go to. I want to go to Carter's Vintage Guitars.
Dude, when you get in town, I'll take you to all the hot spots. I'll take you to all the good local spots, and we'll see some cool guitars.
Yeah, let's go. Because I have never been to Carter's Vintage, and you're a much better guitarist than me, but I would love to go there because it's a staple, you know.
And my wife bought me my favorite guitar from there, and it was a huge purchase that cost way too much money, and I don't know how she even afforded it, but I've made 50 times more than she paid for it with it, so it was a great investment.
I'd love to see it. I'll have to see it when I get there. So tell me, if I'm one of your clients, I mean, do you notice something specific about them? Are they old-time hunters? Are they just getting into the sport? Do you know, really, your client base?
Yeah, so most of my clients, word of mouth, most of them are all like hunting dogs or new hunting dog owners that don't necessarily have had house pets and understand that side of training, but don't have any insight into the how to get a dog to be a bird dog, how to get them to be gamey, how to understand the retraining side or the retrieving side of things. And what I try to do is take everybody personally into account, their dog into account, and then I try to just make the best program that I can that caters to their lifestyle, the dog's needs for their lifestyle. And for instance, I've got a Brittany in right now that when I first got him, his main problem was just leaving the earth. You know, he wouldn't stay close. He's a bird dog. He wants to go hunt. Sure. Well, he'd never had any real purpose to be able to go try to hunt. So the first month I did a lot of long leash work, a lot of collar conditioning. Now I've got him to where he wouldn't retrieve anything at all, just did not like to retrieve. And now he'll retrieve pretty well. He's extremely controllable on a collar. We meet with his clients about once every 2 weeks so they can see the progress. And they've just been super excited to see him completely off leash, controllable with the tone of a collar, taking advice, taking commands from you and listening to anything that you say. And now we've still got another 5 to 6 weeks left in his program, and we can really focus on just quail, birds, retrieving, and the fine tuning of that aspect to make him a really good started dog. And okay. I try to cater everybody to that kind of program.
So you've got some, it sounds like young people. I mean, are they millennials that you're getting some millennial customers or?
Yeah. So the Brittany owners are a younger couple. I've got a lab owner that's he's probably in his 50s. He's a retired military guy, and I guide him in Kansas, and he comes and hunts with me a good bit. So varies across the board. I get a lot of my stuff from Instagram or the people. For instance, the clients that I have, all of their friends are all constantly asking them questions about their dog, how they're doing, how much would it be for them to bring their dogs to me, and so they can refer them to me. And from the videos that I post so that my clients can see their progress on their dogs, I get a lot of other people that then kind of follow the story. So I got a lot of random people that'll just message me and say, man, Bo's looking great.
How
And
many brand new hunters? I'm curious to know. Like, is the industry growing, or is it passed down? Really, like how many new brand new upland hunters that didn't hunt with their mom or dad? Can you tell, or what is it really?
I think there's kind of a little bit of both. I think there's a lot of legacy involved for sure. But the new thing, the new trend of everybody looking to get outside, finding new hobbies is really making people find things like fly fishing, upland hunting, the things that, in my opinion, are, I wouldn't say less strenuous, but my wife loves to upland hunt. She will go duck hunting with me, but man, duck hunting is a grind. It's cold. It's long hours. It's just upland hunting is extremely enjoyable and fun, and it's something a lot of people find organically.
Agreed. And
And a lot of
the
people love
devil's in
bird
the
dogs.
details here. The devil's in the details here. You have this giant group of people, $1 billion industry. You have all these people that are going outdoors and they're fly fishing and they're upland hunting. And maybe this is a knee jerk reaction to Corona, but they're also trying to escape what would you say? The media, the computer, their
All of it, the
smartphones.
tech generation, the screens, the confinement of cities, the red lights. I mean, I grew up in a super rural town with a lot of just open fields, country farms, a lot of timberland in the mountains. And I moved to Nashville and lived here for in the city for over 10 years. And I'll tell you, I couldn't get out of there fast enough by the end of it. I don't dislike a city, but I just can't live a lot of my life there anymore. And I think a lot of people are finding out that they're just more peaceful when they get out into the environment and step back a little bit.
Yes.
Uh, so I think a lot of people are finding this as a new thing organically. And
That's
I
the
think,
name. Walden.
yeah, yeah,
It's Henry David Thoreau. It's so good for your brain to get out in the woods and get off your freaking phone.
man,
Take
see
a
that trailer right there?
in. Look at these beautiful trees, all the greenery. I mean, you're surrounded by that's just life, when you're surrounded by life, it makes you feel alive. There's something great about the green grass, the green trees, getting out around real organic matter. It's
It's
so
just
easy to get stuck in technology or a litigious society where everything is written and we have all these fake rules. Like, get out in the woods, unplug from all of this.
the thing that, I mean, this is why I hunt and fish. I've always followed a dog, and I'll never not as long as I can. And I could care less about the harvesting of the game at this point. Not that I love to harvest the game, but I am there for the dogs most of the time. I love watching a dog work, and it's just what makes me happy, and it's where I go to calm down and center myself. And I think I've never found anything like that in a city. I think that's something that the outdoors of any capacity, whether it's hiking to the mountaintop, seeing a beautiful view, whether it's going fishing, whether it's getting on a boat and canoeing somewhere, just see something that wasn't made by a man that's bigger than you. That to me is what really centers people, because you can't, your problems aren't that big when you look at something that just absolutely dwarfs you.
It's so infrequent that we're actually centered.
Yeah. Well, the present's not a moment that modern society looks at, right?
You're always thinking about something else,
Well,
or
we have the past, and that's
you're a
where everybody
dopamine
lives
fiend
in.
checking your notifications all the time. You feel your leg vibrate, and you think it's your phone, and you check it, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
But guess what, buddy? You are not centered.
Well, my thing is, you think about the past all the time, and then you're planning for the future all the time, but that never leaves anything for the now. And
Right.
I try my best to live as much as I can in the now because it doesn't exist. It's already moved on.
How
And
do you be present? But what better way to be present than go out in the woods where
yeah,
you don't have phone service?
yeah,
Leave it in the car for the first time ever, you know?
and it's really freeing to know that that's how life was lived for the last thousands and thousands of years until the last 20 years of your life when you could be reached by your watch and everything. It's like you're accessible at all times from everybody.
Right.
And it's a good thing. I get a lot of business when I'm sitting in a duck blind talking to people, and I'm talking dogs when I'm, watching a concert or something. But it also doesn't allow you to turn it off as a business owner, which is a thing that you don't have hours because of it.
And this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. The juxtaposition. It's like I need the camera on because I need to market and advertise, but also I really don't want the camera on right now, you know?
Yeah,
I want to be present. This is what I'm doing this for. I'm doing it to unplug, and yet it's my business. How do you handle that, really?
man. I think the only way that I can is I make time for me and my dogs to go hunting, and I don't film it. I don't tell anybody about it. I don't post pictures on Instagram of what we shot. I just go and I
You
enjoy
film
it,
that
and
or just for you, really?
just for me. And I
Yeah.
take my wife with me most of the time, and whenever I try to go, it's always to a place that coincides with some really good view, to a place I may have never been. So I don't necessarily go to the most bird dense populations. I normally go to the places that are the prettiest to walk, and I hope I find something.
Right.
And those are the times when I can just go be me, because it's just we're just going to have fun, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, there's so many birds that I want to chase that is not really about the birds at all.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go northeast during the fall and go try to woodcock hunt just because I want to see the leaves change. Like
Absolutely.
so
I've
much of it
always
is
dreamed
about the
of going.
travel itself.
I want to go see sage grouse. Like, I want to see sagebrush country.
It's
And
something else. I did that one last year. That one's
before it's gone, it's dwindling just like the grassland. So like that's another thing that drives me. And I wanted to touch on this. I've always considered myself a conservationist. Everything I do is I like to bow fish a lot because I like to bass fish and all that, game fish. I raccoon hunted for a decade of my life around some of the best dogs in the North Carolina mountains because I love turkeys and doing what I can for the turkey population and the upland bird population. And I think that you can do something that's fun and scratches the itch that also benefits something else. And if
yes.
you can do that, that's when you can really find, that's where I find my enjoyment a lot of times now, is knowing that I'm doing the best I can. Like right now, I haven't put a quail on my property here in a year and a half. And the other day we were training in the morning and I heard probably 25 different birds whistling.
Yeah.
So we have wild quail sustaining on my property. And I do that for enjoyment now, more so than really anything.
You bring up an excellent point. Conservationists, so often people will say, hunters kill them all or whatever. It's like, first of all, it's only us upland hunters that know what a sage grouse is.
Yeah.
Who do you think's worried about the population? It's us. We're the only ones who've actually seen one.
Well, and they're trying to put wind farms and solar farms in places that birds migrate through, the waterfowl side of things, with the upland bird population living where they're trying to take that out. And it's something that I feel like my grandfather told me this. My great uncle was a Vietnam veteran, and he told me this too. And I didn't believe him when I was a kid, but he was like, if you don't go see the beautiful things you can, they won't be there when you're my age. And he got to see the same thing happen to lands that he had saw. So I've taken that to heart, and I don't know what'll be left there, but I'm going to see what I can while I can and enjoy it at the moment.
Yeah, I hate to put you on the spot, but I mean, what is the solve for conservation as far as you're concerned? And maybe I'm teeing you up. I might be putting the ball in the tee for you because I know you've done a lot of work around your spot, really, your farm you got going right now. Walk me through kind of what your protocol is and your thought process when it comes to conservation and what that looks like as a landowner.
Man, for me, I study a lot of it. I always have, and all of my grandparents and landowners that I've been around have always said habitat's key, and you need food, but birds, animals of all kind will find food for the most part if they have habitat to live in, stay away from predators, and stay safe. So I started really focusing on native grasses. I've regenerated the creek banks, and a lot of native grasses, a lot of native flowers, like the black-eyed Susans are just now starting to bloom on the creek bank, and they're beautiful, but they also produce a lot of food, and they give a lot of good cover for birds. And so what I've really started doing is a lot less mowing until, July, mid-July, because in Tennessee here, our nesting season ends about July 7th to 15th. I don't mow anything that I can help it under before that. I don't hay anything if I've got neighbors that are having me do any of that. I try to talk to people about just leaving their fields standing for longer. Habitat's key, and the best thing that you can do is try to manage the predators. We can't do anything with the hawks and the owls, and I know they hammer the quail population pretty good, but good habitat keeps the hawks off of the quail, but it won't do anything for the coyotes.
What do you think about the hawk trainers, though?
Man, I love it. I've as a kid. What was that book? The one about the mountains, the up north and the Catskill Mountains. There was a kid that had a hawk, had a falcon.
I follow a few of them on Instagram. I hate that they eat them, but also when I see somebody run one, I'm like, oh, I could maybe get into that too. That'd be fun.
Man, they look super fun. I would definitely like to go down that path one day. I know you have to go through like a 2-year apprenticeship to get in to be a falconer.
Really?
Yeah, you have to do your apprenticeship to teach you how to handle the birds and everything. I've looked into it a bit, and I think when I get a little more free time in my life, I may try to go down that road.
I don't think I ever will, but I'd love to go with a falconer. So once you've got a falcon, I'm in. I'll just come and follow you around and see what you do with it.
3 to 5 years, we'll revisit this thing and see if I've got it.
Well, I got it on film, really, so there'll be no backing out. Once you hit it,
got to do it
now. Cool. Yeah, I can totally relate. Really,
man. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to keep up with the new podcast. It's going to be fun.
Man. I'm stoked to do it, and obviously, since you're episode number 1, like, come back on for episode number 10. Like, let's keep having you on, because this should only get better.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I've been fortunate enough where I have people lined up. Really, I've got maybe 6 or 7 people coming on next week. I'm not messing around with it. Like, I'm really going to do it. So,
dude, I'm excited. Congratulations for doing it. I'm looking forward to it. What's the premise going to be? Is it the same thing moving forward? Or are you going to change?
Yeah, and I'm going to hit a lot of the local businesses here, but the idea is, it's like, yeah, okay, so you have your day job, but what are you really doing, though? Like what is your passion? Exactly. And here in Montana, it's such an interesting conundrum, because they're like, oh yeah, I work at 7-Eleven, but really though,
yeah,
I'm a professional fly fisherman. You're like, really? They're like, yeah, I have 10,000 followers on Instagram. Like, this is what I'm really doing.
Yeah.
I just haven't been able to escape the 7-Eleven yet, but I'm going to,
Yeah.
Everyone's doing that. I want to hear that story, really.
I think everybody's on the cusp of something great, whether they know it or not. And like, I don't have a ton of followers, and I don't really gauge success by that. But
sure,
you need it to a certain extent to be verified or taken care of.
Network. There's one thing to have 10,000 followers. It's another thing to have 10,000 people that are your friends that know you and you can help and they help you. There's a big difference there.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I would like to see more of, is just less of the bots, followers, just the junk, the filler that doesn't matter, and take it down to more of the, like, hey, what do you actually have?
It's a human being.
Yeah.
It's a true human connection. I mean, that's what social media
should be about.
It should be. Right.
But you got to play the game. You got to work within the system, and you got to do what you can. But all I can say is I I thoroughly enjoy photography and cinematography of dogs for sure, of outdoors.
Yeah,
And
same.
that's the main reason that I even started the Instagram outside of just having a page for the business.
Right.
Truly do love and enjoy just photographing the dogs, especially now that I can show them to clients and that they don't even have to be in the same state as me to keep up. Also, meant to share this earlier. We started a YouTube channel for the kennel page as well.
Let's go.
So I will have weekly, bi-weekly updates with just some videos of where the dogs are at training. When it gets hunting season, I'll be, showing where we're going, kind of doing the same thing. Probably do some walkthroughs of traveling with dogs and just some stuff that a lot of people aren't doing. Like, hey, how do you feed your dogs? What's your schedule? How do you make sure they don't have accidents on the road? What's your first aid kit look like? How do you do kennel fans? When do you put fans on? Like I'm going to do some stuff like that to kind of put some educational material out into the world for people that just don't have the experience.
Let's go. I'll bring the camera when I come. Shoot
Absolutely, man.
next. We'll have fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm the Bird Dog Bonanza started off as just an idea for me to literally have a few friends that have clients with me and get a few bird dogs together and have some fun. And with all of my music contacts, I called a few people and I said, "Hey, do you want to play this show?" And it turned into a lot more than I thought it was going to
Oh,
pretty
let's
quickly.
go. Yeah, cool.
It's going to be a lot of good entertainment, a lot of good family fun, a lot of bird dogs. There'll be some vendors there. We'll have gear and equipment demos, and it'll be a fun little event. We'll film it. We'll put it online for the ones that can't make it, and we may make this annual or twice a year kind of thing, so that we could move it around a little. I might head your way for a change.
I'm stoked to come, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I can't believe you're making the trip. I'm super excited, and I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, dude. That's a bet, man. I'm looking forward to it.